Well, still not completely done making the modifications to the data pack. Boy, is it taking a little bit. Sorry. Hey everyone, I'm Clue. Welcome to Minecraft Runechant, my data pack project. Right, so I've been spending the past 2 weeks now implementing some optimization to the commands, and well, we're just doing a sort of follow-up video. Right, so this is the old version of the world, and we can sort of see how bad the lag is. Well, it's not horrible, but it's not great either, right? So the little bars there, yeah, you kind of want all green, and generally as low as possible, right? Normal Minecraft is probably the benchmark we should use, but yeah, we can debug using F3L, right? So it says there. Ooh, that was interesting. Curious. So I guess it just goes crazy on the debugging. Still, after 10 seconds, we will get a little report, and there you go. It says 261 ticks per second, and generates the little debug report, which is nice and useful. Right, so that was the old version of the world. Again, not optimal at all from what I've been taught by Statistically Blue. Right, compared to the new one. So this one, so instead of test, just have new. Right, and then old is not. Old is actually the command block world. Right, but look at that. Significantly better. I have done the bulk of it though, right? So when I say I finished converting everything, I still have done the bulk of the data pack, which means that this is great to see, right? The just stark difference between the two. And we can do the F3L again, probably wait for that little peak, right? So F3L, even that, the peaks of the debugging is not as bad as what it was, right? And we'll get another report, and we'll get the little ticks any second now, right? 321, so already better. And then we can even compare it to a normal Minecraft world. Do I have one? No, it's fine. Just create a new creative world. Right, no special features, nothing, and do the same thing again. F3. Well, actually, we'll let the world load first, but as you can see, a normal world is obviously much smaller. The peaks would be most likely chunks, right? Yeah, so I look around and they generate and load. But yeah, we'll probably wait for these two little highs to go. Do F3L again, and then we can compare the three reports on a website. Misodi's Inspector. We'll see it afterwards anyway. But there you go. So 467 for normal world, right? So again, there is a difference between the data pack and not, and it is a very intensive data pack because it's quite a large data pack, right? So can't be helped. There will be some tick lag, but hopefully it's optimized, and hopefully it's also significantly better for multiplayer, because I was very unoptimal in the way I ran player checks, right? So for instance, the armor pack data pack definitely just instantly tanks the more people are involved, the more people utilizing it, right? Because I'm doing everything in a single player capacity. But anyway, let's look at the reports, right? So if I click this, I'll open up for me, but we'll go to the website, we'll look at the reports, and then we will probably just go through the changes I have implemented, since I have a better understanding of them now. Right, so here's the little website page. So it's just Misodi's report inspector Minecraft, right? Or I'll probably put it in the description anyway, but we can open up the debug reports if I drag and drop. So this will be the old world, the old Runechant data pack. Then we'll do the normal, oh, I need to click the plus. Then we'll do the normal Minecraft world, right? And then we'll do the new Runechant world. So hopefully I did that in the right order, but right, we can look. So 35 on average, 9 on average versus 22 on average. Right, the milliseconds per, like, in between each tick. I'm pretty sure I'm reading that correctly. Right, again, don't have a complete understanding of this, but we can just compare the raw numbers to sort of get a you know, understanding of what is better, using, of course, again, the normal Minecraft world as the baseline. But we go to profiling on all of them, or you can actually, oh, it automatically does that. That's awesome. What we can do is we can see which commands are actually the worst, right? So just by percentage category, you know, think of it, if you do like, was it Control Alt Delete? No, you know, bring up the little command center on Windows, and you can see your CPU and everything like that, right? So again, we can compare them. So again, all these ones are doing entity checks. So this at E type, and then looking at NBT data, the really bad ones. Right, in a normal world, obviously there's no commands loading, so the next tick wait and unspecified, that's all the top, right? And then we also have Well, they're all equivalent, so I can't quite compare them. But compared to this, right, where tick is now the worst function. But what is data modify storage? That's fine. Again, yeah. Still figuring out how to read this. I assume the count is the big bad thing, right? Considering it's the highest number here versus this where the count isn't. Well, actually, the count is worse. No, okay, average time, maybe? Right. Drinking is bad. Yeah. I was told to look for a tick thing, right? Client, maybe? Chunk tick or something like that. Client tick? 201. Again, I was also told they should be around 20, but mine is consistently reporting over, and I don't know if it's because I've modified the RAM allocation, but all I do know is going off of, you know, base numbers and just this chart, right? It is significantly better. We're back in the green instead of the yellow, and what's also better is this is more consistent, right? So this doesn't raise as much. In fact, you know, we'll be done with this, right? We'll go back to Minecraft. Let me close this, right? And we'll go back into the normal world. So what I mean is, actually, we'll go into the test world first. So in this world, if I'm making use of the features of the data pack, what you'll notice is the little sidebar ramp up quite quickly, right? So it'll continue to grow and get worse. I think the easiest one to do is probably the, oh, actually, this is a little bit older. But still, as I go through and there's more entities loaded, you can see it's picking up. Even if I spawn in some items or stuff like that, it'll go crazy. The easiest thing to do, actually, another new easiest thing to do, is probably just spam husks, right? So if we just go like up 3 blocks and then just do summon husk, ooh, type, right, below us, and just turn it on, always active. The damage ticks are probably bad too, but anyway. Right, as you can see, it's escalating and escalating and escalating and escalating, getting worse and worse and worse. But if we go to the main world now, in fact, mind me to do -2 because this is now a bit hard to destroy. We go to the new version, right, and we do the exact same thing. It should rise more steadily, right? It shouldn't just grow exponentially. We'll do it in one of these little caves here. I do know the collision will probably be bad as well, but we'll just plop it there. Turn that to repeat and go summon husk -2. I said right. Be fine. Was active. Open F3. Right. See how slowly it's rising compared to the other world. Yes, it will eventually get bad, but of course any world will get bad once you have enough entities crammed together. But yeah, so because of that, it is, you know, far more consistent, and it should be far better on multiplayer as well. Right. Yeah, because that's a lot of husks. There's a entity count somewhere on the screen, isn't there? If I get rid of the F3 too. We see the sounds, client, blah blah blah. No, what's the other one? TPS, ping, profiler, F31. What's that? Nope. F32. Nope. Ah, you get what I'm trying to say. You can just delete them all anyway. I mean, this should still be quite bad as well because I'll drop items. F32. No, even with all the items floating around. It's not as bad. On the other world, it would be, because I check items a lot. In this, I've to be honest, this is probably the big headache, redoing all the drop crafting, which I'll go through in a second. Let me set up so I can show off the edits I have made thanks to Statistically Blue. So here we have the data pack, Runechant, and of course our Runechant and then functions. I do also have old, because I've been slowly pulling them out and converting them, right? So I still have a fair few to go. Like some of the crafting stuff, arrows, magic, mob spawners, season. Season's probably the big one. That's more of another headache to sort of convert over to the new style that I've been using. But yeah, if we go to functions, it's all neat and organized now, right? Which is far better to work with. So we have it split between mob, player, and static. And we're just using one to run everything, right? So function tick timer, tick randomizer, right? And then here we're executing as all players, running the tick play, which is essentially the controller function, and then same with mobs. And what happens in here is the big thing that has really helped with the TPS, right? So we're using the storage system for data, right? So we're modifying storage and storing all of the player's data. So at S, right? And we're executing as every player. So one by one, it will go through each player, store their data, check their data, run any functions that are appropriate according to that data, and then move on to the next player, right? So it's a nice closed system rather than constantly checking every player and their NBT. So yeah, great change to the lag. Thank you a lot, Statistically Blue. Right, so then we have all the different functions, storing specific data sometimes as well to make it easier to read. I probably don't need to, but I had implemented this system before Statistically Blue pointed out to me, just use the entirety of the data, right? So, oh well, he also showed me just a way to make it a little bit more optimized in that sense. So we're just pulling from storage rather than checking the player again. And then we have all the different functions, so we have all the attribute stuff, weapon poisons, consumables, passive abilities, weapon skills, and magic, and so forth and so on, right? And then they're all divided into here, and yeah, same thing. We don't need to check for specific things now, so let's go consumables. That's an easier one to explain, right? So it's just then selects for each item using the storage. So we check the player's storage, see if they have the item in their selected item slots, right? So your main hand, and then it's going to tag them, and then we can run the function, and yeah, it's just a lot easier to set up, and again, really cuts down the lag. The big one, though, is how I'm handling drop crafting, right? So we go to tick mob, we scroll down to somewhere where it says item. Anyone catching it before me? Yeah, right, so executes, run function, mob, item selector, right? So we're just scanning every entity, and then the ones that are items, we're running another set of functions, right? All of this is just to split up the different types of entities. And once again, we are storing their data, right? So we can read it rather than doing NBT checks through commands. So inside the items, right, we have crafting 1, 2, and 3, as well as some other ones, but essentially this is one item crafting, right? So you place one item and it interacts with something or does something and turns into another item. 2 crafting, so drop 2 different items together and they will, you know, mesh with one another or do whatever you want to call it and craft something. And then 3 items. And the way we're handling this is a bit interesting to me, right? So again, item selector to run specific things. So for instance, we have the rock crusher and the special, but then we have the 3 different types of crafting, right? So in the first one, again, we're just looking for specific items or specific multi-block structures using if block, right? And then running our recipes. So I don't know which ones, I've done the grinder there. So like the recipe here looks for another, you know, certain item ID in terms of the NBT using the storage, and then it will run the function, which then actually, you know, gives out the modify. So it modifies phantom membranes into membrane paste, plays the sound and executes the particle, right? So nice and organized, and I can add to them a lot easier than previous. But the big one, again, is the multiple item crafting, right? So what we're doing is that we're actually storing a second item that is between 0.01 and 1 block away from the main item, right? So this allows one item to detect another item, right? So for instance, the base command is detecting that entity, storing its data, but then that new crafting is now going to detect the second item next to it, right? And then same for the third, and so forth and so on, right? It's storing the data of all the entities around it within that 0.01 to 1 block radius, right? So as long as they're on the same block, it will detect the turn as long as they don't form a stack, right? And that way I can set up multiple item drop crafting recipes and have it be decent, right? Not cause a whole lot of lag by having to do a lot of NBT checks. Because again, all I have to do is check the storage. So similarly, we check for the multi-block structure, right? And then we can actually go in and set up the recipe. Oh, that's the wrong folder. That's the debug reports. So if we go to 2, we can look at the grinder, for instance. We can see the recipes, right? So it checks the first storage, the Runechant entity, right? This is the main entity. And then we check the second storage, crafting 1, right? To see if we find that second item. So if there's glowing sack and paper, but the paper is not the special paper, it will then run the function, right? So this is a recipe that then leads into the actual item function that then creates the item, plays the particle, and plays the sound effect. Again, altogether, these little optimizations have really just made things a lot more accessible in the pack and is well worth, well, the extra 2 weeks it's tacked on. I was meant to get to mobs, right? Well, finish magic first of all and then get to mobs. I did do some art, so, you know, we might as well tease that, right? Dun dun dun. So I've sort of been going crazy with trim patterns, right? So there's all of these. And then Hoglin, Horse, Llama. Ooh, Piglin King, right? So just a little teaser. Netherite legs. What does this arm look like? Because this is how I'm going to handle the majority of bosses, right? So we've got Piglin King as the pattern. So if we give ourselves that, ooh, Mantle of the Piglin King. Equip it. Look at that. Isn't that snazzy? Nice little Piglin belts and nice little like sash. And yeah, essentially, boss is going to be a Piglin dressed up in some fancy gear. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. See ya.